And then the video just stops at that point. There's a few messages there. I could put a lot more up, but I think you get the summary of what the answers of those questions will be. I myself have told you about the Union Jack and how it makes up nearly all the flags of the world, one way or another. The cross has on it, oh there you go, look, we'll put it on here. The Union Jack has, let's just put it there, a crisscross, triangles and lines. There's a line there, still a line, there's lines on it. And when you look at the flags, you can almost see where they fit on the Union Jack. And the Union Jack seems to fit perfectly on top of the star map, which is a bit like a Gleason map, but it isn't. And it covers the southern hemisphere, whereas the other ones don't. But the Union Jack fitting on nearly the whole world. And in it there are eagles. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I made a video about the King of England, etc. It was out last week. And there he is with his jacket on with a pair of wings on it. And then when you see the Germans, they've got wings on their jackets too. And anybody can't see that it's the same thing. Like Trump has on his presidential seal. There's a picture of it in this video, so maybe we'll just go to that. Oh look, there's the eagle. And I've told you who's flying double eagles right now. Russia. On their flag. And on the top of these things, it doesn't show you because they like to cut them off. You do see them occasionally. I've shown you a video with Trump and I've shown you in the British government. They have eagles on the top of their flags. If you're in totally separate things, why would you have the same things? Why would you have the eagles, which many countries still fly on their flags, and then have them on your jackets? I mean, it's the same thing. So this is what this guy is talking about. He doesn't realise maybe, I mean at the moment he can say Canada, England and Australia, that's part of the Roman Empire, the British Empire. So, but it's the whole world he says this is happening to. Let's play his video.
This is Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia. 3 nations spread across 3 different continents. But despite the distance, one alarming truth connects them all. They are collapsing in exactly the same way. And now, the symptoms are impossible to ignore. Let's begin where the cracks are turning into a full-blown collapse. Canada. In Canada today, the average family can't afford a home in their own country. Home ownership has crashed 31% in a single generation. Compounding this issue, foreign buyers now hold a significant stake in the Canadian property market, owning up to 13% of it, more than at any point in history. But Canada isn't alone. In Britain, the foundation of the middle class has been gutted. Manufacturing jobs gone, down 46% since 1990. And what did families get in return? The highest tax burden since World War II. All while public services fell apart. But this isn't just a British problem. Across the world, Australia is living the same nightmare, only deeper. There, a quiet takeover is underway. Foreign corporations now control 80% of the country's critical resources. And the dream of home ownership, dead on arrival. Housing prices have soared by 500%, while wages crawled just 80%. Young Australians are being priced out of their future in their own country. And this pattern across continents, across governments, is no accident. This isn't just failure. It's not bad luck. It's called managed decline.
I suppose all these statistics are very conveniently covering over 3 years that we were locked up in our houses. Lock up. How can you lock us up for 3 years, change it so that now basically we're ordering everything out of our home? You know, like before lock up, we didn't order our food like we do now so much. I'm not saying you couldn't get a takeaway pizza and curries and all that, but now is Whoosh, and there's lots of other things. You can get Tesco's Whoosh to deliver. You can get, they'll bring you more or less anything now once you order it. So it kind of changed things. So, you know, I've seen a lot of shops closed on now, and when you lock us up for so long, how can you expect an economy to weather that when you locked everything down? I mean, when you think about it, it's absolutely crazy. So it's not surprising that there's problems in the first place, because we were locked up for 3 years. Nothing moved for 3 years. Anyway, don't you think that should have been included in this video, maybe? Because how do you survive 3 years of nothing? I mean, someone like Amazon did very well, didn't they? And there's going to be some companies, the big ones, that flourished, but it probably killed off all the small ones, or people have had to start again. Anyway, let's carry on with his video.
And it's happening by design. And if you're watching this thinking it can't happen here, you need to pay attention, because these 3 nations are the test cases for what's already occurring throughout the Western world. What you're about to learn in this video will completely change how you understand what's happening to these once powerful nations, and why everyone should be deeply concerned about what comes next. The evidence is hiding in plain sight. Government documents, insider testimonies, and statistical patterns reveal a blueprint that's been quietly unfolding for decades. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people have no idea that the collapse of these 3 nations follows a familiar historical pattern.
He's going to talk about empire in a minute, and the Roman Empire. I don't think we've ever left that thing at all. You know, the Roman Empire turned into the British Empire, and in the just up to the Second World War, they were still gaining land. Yeah, still gaining countries. I've told you about that as well. Charles is an emperor. He may not be called it, but his status would be emperor. Look at the countries he has. Even if he's proxy king, whatever, he's still got the world, even if it's in the Commonwealth. So I've told you about the Romans quite often, and that relates into those eagles, etc. And a little bit later on, I'm going to mention something else that I realised. Anyway, let's watch a bit more of the video.
Every empire throughout history has fallen in a similar way, from the inside out. Take ancient Rome. Most think it fell to barbarian invasions, but Rome's real decline began internally, through economic inequality that mirror what's happening across Canada, the UK, and Australia right now. By the 2nd century AD, as Rome's expansion slowed, the wealthy elite created massive estates worked by imported labor. This destroyed local Roman farmers, the backbone of the Republic, who were crushed by debt and displacement. Sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same pattern unfolding today. When Roman reformers tried addressing these inequalities, they were eliminated. The elites chose to get rid of reformers rather than give up their power. A key point to remember as we look at what's happening in these modern nations. Just as Rome faced demographic collapse in its final years, these three nations are experiencing unprecedented population shifts. Despite Canada importing over 480,000 migrants in 2024 alone, its fertility rate has plummeted to just 1.48 children per woman, far below the replacement level. The UK's fertility rate has crashed to 1.44, while Australia's sits at 1.5. These countries aren't growing naturally, they're being artificially repopulated while their middle classes vanish, exactly as Rome's did before its fall. Managed decline might sound like boring corporate jargon, but it represents one of the most dangerous concepts in modern governance. Originally a business term for companies beyond saving, it evolved into a strategy where maintaining appearances takes priority over actual solutions. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's documented policy. The concept emerged during the 1980s in Britain when Margaret Thatcher's government advised that struggling industrial cities should be left to manage decline, controlling the collapse rather than preventing it. But what's truly shocking? This localized strategy has now been scaled up to the national level across Canada, the UK, and Australia, and the evidence isn't hidden. It's being announced openly.
In the past, I used to watch quite a lot of Richard D. Hall, and we messaged each other quite a bit, and I went to one of his shows, but he laughed at me when I said I was a flatty, and I see somewhere in here that he's been was taken to court, so I'm not going to laugh at you, Richard. But in the past, well, he's probably best known for the Madeleine McCann case. But all he's made me realise is the case wasn't real. And the reason these people didn't have any feelings was there wasn't a child. But he's most known for that and finding all the problems with the videos, the pictures, how the statements are, how you can have a crime or a scene and you're waiting for the police to come, but everybody walks around in there and ruins all the forensic stuff, and you find out that he has been a doctor to the Queen, and he's just like, what the... But the photograph with the funny thing in her eye, you know, those things don't just appear. But the photograph with the funny thing in her eye, you know, those things don't just appear. And, you know, I don't know what to make of it. I was so upset at the time, but now I think the other. But what it was is, I can't find it. I've got it somewhere in one of my videos. That he was talking about immigration. And he said, I think he was talking to someone. And he said, I can't remember now. But the story is, so if you have an island and say, between you've got £1 million. And an immigrant comes along and wants to come to your island, he asks the question, do you want one with money or do you want one without money? So of course most people are going to say, well, we want the one with the money because obviously it brings better prosperity to our island. He said, no, you want the one that doesn't have any money, because then he has to work, live and eat and rent and etc. in your economy, so he makes you money. So that's why they bolster the economy with immigrants, because things are really bad, but this is how they do it. And it is by design, and it's by, well, I'm going to show you this as well. Look, if all these countries have had or have totalitarianism right now, do you really think that we don't? We're in one system. One system means under one regime. Yeah. And, you know, they put Germany here, but you know, if you watch some of those videos with AI, listening to what Hitler was actually saying, everything he said in this one video I watched is happening now. He just explains it. And that's quite incredible considering he's been an animal to us. So that's crazy in itself, isn't it? But look at all those countries. See, and it will say in here, Russia. And we were told that they were communist. But they weren't. It was worse. It was totalitarianism. And if they've had it, and he's flying eagles, and the USA has got an eagle, on top of the Union Jacks are eagles, and on the jackets there's eagles. So if they've got it, had it, they've still got it, and we've got it.
Don't believe it? Just look at the official messaging coming out of these governments. Their infamous "you'll own nothing and be happy" rhetoric wasn't just a meme. It's becoming the reality for millions. In Australia, government reports warn of a generation of forever renters as home ownership slips out of reach for younger Australians. In Canada, nearly a third of people under 40 now say they expect to rent for life, according to recent surveys. And in the UK, a 2025 policy paper declared that the era of mass homeownership is over, signaling a long-term shift away from traditional property ownership. If this is your first time hearing about managed decline, prepare for a rude awakening, because once you understand how it works, you'll start seeing it everywhere. And nowhere is it more obvious than what's happening to Canada right now. Canada presents itself as a progressive, independent nation. The reality? It's being transformed back into a resource colony before our very eyes. Here's the playbook being implemented with frightening precision. First, domestic production gets strangled. Since 2009, business investment per worker in Canada has fallen by 20%, according to Statistics Canada, part of a broader trend tied to weaker market competition. Meanwhile, productivity has stagnated. Canada also recorded only 1.1% growth in real GDP per capita between 2014 and 2024, making it the second worst performer among 38 high-income countries. Second, the market gets flooded with new consumers. Canada now has the highest population growth in the G7, with 98% coming from immigration. This creates artificial GDP growth on paper while masking collapsing living standards. Meanwhile, the housing market has detached completely from economic reality. The average Toronto home now costs 11 times the median household income, more than double what financial experts consider remotely sustainable. Young Canadians aren't just unable to buy homes, they're spending up to 60% of their income on rent alone. The numbers are staggering. In March 2025, the average home price in Toronto hit $1.4 million, while Vancouver topped $1.7 million. Meanwhile, the median annual income in these cities hovers around $100,000. The math simply doesn't work anymore. And who's buying these properties? Foreign investors purchased tens of thousands of Canadian homes in recent years, with many left empty as pure investment vehicles. In fact, things got so bad that the federal government extended its foreign buyer ban to 2027. Statistics Canada data shows that non-residents owned about 7% of condos in British Columbia and 5.6% in Ontario. Clear evidence that investment demand has distorted housing supply. But wait, you might be thinking, isn't this just normal economic evolution? Think again. Most Canadians never even noticed when, back in 2015, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper publicly dismissed the middle-class prosperity platform as outdated. At the time, it sounded like political posturing. But in hindsight, it reads more like a warning, because what followed was a slow, calculated dismantling of the economic foundations that once upheld middle-class life in Canada.
If you've got this far into the video, before the video ends, which it will shortly, I wanted to put a bit in, and this happened with my dear Mickey. What it was is I'd worked it all out, and then what it was is there's this church down the road from where we lived. And what it is it says that it's a Protestant church. But when you look it up, Carl Shorten Church, it says it's a Protestant church in a new Catholic way. So that I found very fascinating. But anyway, I think he was called a creator, which is almost a, whatever it is, not because even though they're Protestant, they're still doing everything in a very Catholic way, whatever a creator is. But anyway, he would take services and things like that, and me and Mickey talked to him a few times, and then one day he came through the park and I had to do it. Because what I did was, I was just looking at all the religions. You know, we've got Methodist, Protestant, Catholic, there's loads of them. Evangelical, etc, etc. And I noticed that the sins changed a bit. And then it hit me. Because Sven, on a video he made probably a few years ago now, he couldn't understand why there were so many churches in his, in front of him. Within a mile, there was about 12 churches. It's like, that's a lot of churches. And then because I had this theory, I said it to this creator with Mickey. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be going to Carl Schulten very often now, and Mickey, my witness, isn't here anymore. But basically, I said to him, when looking up all the information about religions and realising that Protestant still means protesting Catholic, so we're still Catholics, we're just protesting Catholics. That's what the word Protestant means. It doesn't mean we're in a different religion. It just means we're a wing of that one, and we're protesting against that, which is sometimes what happens in other religions, isn't it? You've got like the Zionist Jews and the non-Zionist Jews. So, you've got branches breaking off and creating other branches. But I said to him, I realised, because what it was is, when I was looking up all these different churches, they all had the same baptism. And the baptism was the Trinity. And the only religion that has the Trinity is the Roman Catholics. The Holy Roman Catholics, the Roman Catholics. And of course, the Pope and all that. And I did about the yarmulke the other day. The Pope's wearing them. Probably Muslims are wearing them. And the Jews are wearing them. Yeah. All very, very similar hats. And I said to him, there's just one religion, Catholic. We're all branches of the Catholic religion. They've pretended that they're new religions and different religions and they do different things, but they still baptise the children with the Catholic anointment. So they're all Catholic, and they just haven't told the public that it's all one system, just branches of the other. And I wasn't expecting him to say what he did. And he said, you are correct. And I said, Mickey, look, he says I'm right. Yeah, there you go. So I've made videos about that as well. So remember that, yeah, it's just one religion really. I'm not talking about Far East or stuff, but talking about the different churches. I made a video about it. It's on the channel somewhere, or on Sun and Moon channel. But, one religion, one empire, under totalitarianism. We really are just slaves. There's no one to go to, no one to talk to. And, this is why people are going to TikTok and other places to have their voice. But I'm putting it on all of them, and I just hope YouTube don't get silly.
But here's the truly mind-blowing part. Canadian policymakers aren't failing to solve these problems. They're just ignoring the inevitable. When asked what happens if Canada's housing bubble finally bursts, analysts warned that it could trigger a financial crisis with ripple effects far beyond real estate. As Jacobin notes, Canada's housing market has become a tinderbox propped up by speculation, lax regulation, and blind faith in endless appreciation. If the bubble pops, it won't be a surprise. It'll be a disaster foretold. That's right, the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. If you think Canada's managed decline is shocking, just wait until you see what they've done to Britain. It's the same blueprint, just a more advanced stage. And what you're about to discover will make you question everything you thought you knew about modern economics. The United Kingdom, once the workshop of the world and birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, is now experiencing the fastest deindustrialization of any developed nation.
There is the silly old American eagle. on the seal of approval. Presidential seal. And there is the Russian double eagle and the American one. And like, you know, if you're not in the same thing, why would you want to have the same thing? They might be holding different things in their legs, because don't forget, America doesn't have a royal family. But if you are completely separate, you wouldn't want to fly the same things as your enemy, would you? So that tells you they are together. Instead of involving the whole world in the game, when you think that from here to here is, I think it's that distance. It might be from here, but anyway, this is only a short distance, maybe 60 miles. And then you've got Little Dolomite and Big Dolomite. Now they're very close to each other, and the daytime starts from there. So this is 24 hours ahead of that. That's crazy in itself when they can look at each other. So on Little Dolomite, people live. And they said, right, because you can see there's been some buildings on that one, but they just live like at the bottom of a mountain. They said that they can see here, but they won't go there. I don't think any of this is real, so they could be looking at more land, but it's not. Russia. But anyway, what they said was, not one plane, not one boat, not one soldier between this bit, and it's only so many miles apart. So why do they use us, frighten us, tell us we're almost going to war with people who actually are in the same system as us? Same system as them, sorry, not me, them. And where they could actually have millions of boats and guns and kill each other all off just round here, just up here, away from the islands, because there's people supposedly living on it. Kill each other all after here, just keep doing it, just finish yourself off up there and leave us alone. Especially when they've got the same things. Yeah. Double eagles meant you were an emperor, by the way, in the Roman Empire thing. And this one's a little bit more hidden in things so that people haven't noticed. The eagle has the same legs and everything as the Russian one. Thank you very much to this person who put this video out recently, in the last couple of days. So thanks very much for that. And I saw that and I thought, wow, I've got to make a video about that. So thanks for watching. Thank you to this person and whoever made the video. If it was them, thank you again and again and again.